Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market. This is our daily show from Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. GMT every day of the week. We discuss all things to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, the bull market, and other ways that you may like to make money on the internet. Although you're probably going to abandon all of them pretty soon because the market is going up. So you're probably just going to watch that price go up for the foreseeable future. We are live on X. We are live on YouTube. Delighted to bring you this show live from Miami/Vienna, and we're here. We're gonna get into it all in just a moment. Bring you the best headlines, get you up to speed with what's been happening in the last 24 hours from a price perspective and a news perspective. But before we do that, as always, just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, that we do not know anything for sure. This is not financial advice. Please exercise your own caution and do your own research and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, how are you doing this Wednesday, the 6th of December?
GM, doing quite well. It's been a fantastic week so far. How's Miami treating you?
Miami's great. Miami's very, very nice. I had a little bit of an episode with the hotel where I'm staying because this is the third room that I'm in out of all of the rooms, because the first room didn't have any paint on the ceiling and there was like loads of writing on the ceiling. Like, you know, when it looks like someone's drawing in pencil trying to figure out where the electrics are supposed to go. And I was like, that looks a bit strange. I don't know if that's necessarily supposed to be like that. And then like the light was falling off on the wall and there was marks on the wall everywhere. I was like, I don't know. I don't really think that's what I paid for. So I complained about that. Then the next room, when I had a shower, the whole bathroom got flooded. I was like, I don't know about that either. Like, I don't think that's necessarily supposed to be happening. And then I'm in this room, and the funniest thing about it, like, it's the best room of the three, but they actually told me that the ceiling issue, where there's no light on the ceiling and there's no paint on the ceiling, that's just one of their design choices. That's one of their design choices, which is actually across not just every single room in this hotel, it's across their 3 hotels in Miami. So that's just one of the things that they have decided to do. You might be able to get a little glimpse of it on the YouTube channel now. Not really though. But I'm not having it. I'm just not having it. I told the lady on reception that it's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life, and I appreciate that's not her decision. But she started laughing, and I was like, okay, well, I don't know. I don't think this is a good thing. I don't know what else to tell you. Legendary, like, what's going on here? Is this? Have you ever been in a hotel with this interior design choice?
Look, here's the thing. I would be able somewhere in my mind to accept that the ceiling, which we can see on YouTube, right, is a design choice. But not having lights and having the pencil notes, you showed me them in another call, right? Having the pencil notes for the
Dude,
fixtures and everything that needs to be installed is not a design choice.
look at this. This is what they gave me because I complained that there's no lights. Look, I'm going to switch it on. They
I
gave
love
me
it. This is
like
like some fucking 18th century shit.
I've got a 19th century lantern
Is it
with.
an oil lamp or does it actually use electricity?
I have no idea, but this is clearly ridiculous, right? Like
It's a
they've given
petroleum
me,
lamp, right?
they give me 2 like garden lanterns because I complained that I don't have enough light to do the show early in the morning and do work when I get in. I was like, okay, well, now do I not get a refund because you gave me 2 garden lanterns?
I
It's
think
pretty
it's a
outrageous.
hotel for crypto degens because they're like, this guy doesn't need light. He's on his laptop all the time. This guy doesn't give a fuck about the ceiling because the only thing he's looking at is the charts. This is actually a Web3 hotel.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably probably one of the things that they're thinking. One of the other things is we managed to get dinner with a good friend Hershey, who is American but lives in London. Had dinner with Sammy as well, great friend of the show, and also Jack, who is with us on stage today. Jack, how are you feeling? Did a little bit of a dine and dash yesterday at the end of the meal. You obviously were, I think, a little bit tired after your trip, but how are you feeling? How's Miami treating you? How's it going?
Yeah, I think between the dine and dash in your hotel, there's still very much bear market sentiment thoughts. Just not quite sure how you've been gaslit into just believing your like half finished hotel room is actually a design choice, but that's one expert level concierge service right there. If they've managed to convince you of that, the lanterns, that is probably one of the funniest things I've ever heard come out of a hotel room. I don't understand how this has happened to you, B. But I would recommend that you use some of those. Maybe just floor your MADLADS and just go live it up for a couple of weeks in Miami instead. Just like make the most of this bull market and just go ham.
The thing is, though, the reason why I am annoyed is because, like, if I hadn't paid anything for the hotel, and then there's just like marks on the wall and like the ceiling's not finished, and then they're giving me lanterns to light the place. Like, if I'd paid nothing, I wouldn't actually care. Like, if I'd just gone for like some floor hotel. But the thing is, it's not. Like, it's actually not. And they're trying to sell it to me as some like niche boutique design choice, which is just like completely unacceptable.
The more I think about it, the more I'm convinced it is a Web3 hotel. It makes so much sense. Like in Web3, also, talk about shiny things that if you actually take a closer look, they are not working, they're broken, very basic things are missing. It is a Web3 hotel. It's exactly what would happen if you let Web3 people design a hotel. And I'm sure it's
Absolutely.
not cheap. I'm sure it's not a cheap hotel because that also would fit my narrative perfectly.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. Kusho, what's up, man? What are your thoughts on this nonsense before we get into the headlines and some of the good stuff in just a moment?
Look, man, Shakespeare, Leonardo da Vinci, they all went through this process, man. They wrote the best works with like lanterns. They were in dark rooms with unfinished ceilings. I mean, just write the snapshot from there, and I'm sure you will feel the inspiration flowing so much more. I really think so. Like, just try.
Maybe I'm going to do the show with it. I'm going to do the show with the lantern by me. Let's see if it goes on camera properly. I mean, I feel you, man. Like, there's something very inspirational about like doing work by candlelight or something. Maybe that's the more romantic perspective. Like, you do it by candlelight. Maybe I'll get some paper out. I'll draft the snapshot on a piece of paper and then take a screenshot of it and post it like that. But I don't know. Enough of the complete nonsense of the hotel, and I can't manage to figure out how to get this lantern lighting situation to work any better. But fortunately, the sun is rising in Miami, so we can get into the show and the headlines and some of the good stuff that's been going on in the last 24 hours. Damn, at dinner as well, it was pretty bullish dinner, which was very, very enjoyable. But let's get into it, starting with the price action. As always, this is pinned up top in the snapshot. If you do find it brings you some value today, please give it a like, because I wrote it by literal candlelight this morning and last night. We have Bitcoin at just under 44K. It did go above, just touched underneath now. That is up over 5% in the last 24 hours. We have ETH at 2.2, which is up 2%. We've got Solana up 5% again at 63.25. In terms of NFTs, we have Bored Apes at 29.9, Pudgy Penguins at 8.8, a little bit of a dip, down 7%. Interesting to note, to kind of get a feel what's going to happen before their event on Saturday. Does it keep going up in advance of that? Is it going to drop back down? Let's see. Mutant Apes 5.8, down just a touch. Captains 4.9, down 5%. DGods 3.3, down 1%. Azukis 6.5, up 1%. Pixelmon at 1.4, down 8%. Legendary told me to buy some of those at 0.9, I think, if I remember correctly. Milady's at 3.5, Lil Pudgy's at 0.8. Treeverse, the Loopify project, we spoke about this yesterday. This would have been a smart move, now that I think about it, given that we reported on it. They did their raise yesterday at 2.5 million, and everything in their ecosystem has pumped like 30%. So that's pretty interesting to note. Maybe I should have done some thinking on that after I reported on it. World of Women up 10% as well at 1.9. So a little bit of a mix there. Stuff is up, but also stuff is down, I suspect, because people are now, I feel like we're getting to a point where maybe people are thinking, well, crypto is running. How much exposure do we want in NFTs? Let's consider that. Getting into the headlines, we have MADLADS soaring past 200 Solana and announcing a partnership with Wormhole. I believe they've actually gone up to 220 now. So that is just exceptional for the Premier collection on Solana. Number 2, crypto continues to rip higher with Bitcoin touching 44K, which I already mentioned. The final piece of news is Coinbase launches tool to send money anywhere that you can send a link. I think it's really important. We might not talk about it in a huge amount of detail because we'll be talking price stuff today, but Coinbase's decentralized wallet now lets you send USDC for free using iMessage, WhatsApp. This is a potentially big development as it removes complexity for cross-border payments. That is pretty cool. So I think people think that's a very big deal. A couple of top sales. We've got No Pep and Pudgy selling for 9 ETH. And a CryptoPunk 3D glasses selling for 86.5 ETH. That's $197,000. Legendary, that is the price action. Those are the headlines. What's standing out to you there?
Definitely love a lot of the numbers, but in particular, I would have to pick the Treeverse ecosystem, mainly because I'm a holder. I also didn't buy on the news yesterday. I should have bought more, but on the other hand, I'm also pretty happy having, I think it's almost 24 timeless characters, couple of Treeverse plots. So just from a very selfish perspective, I'm happy about that movement. But I think it was a massive sweep. It wasn't someone that loaded up 100 ETH on a wallet and swept Treeverse and a couple of other projects, including the Seedify, Seed World Vanguards, and a couple more in a massive 100 ETH sweep.
Interesting. So do you think, was I right to connect? Sorry, my voice is. Was I right to connect the the Treeverse and timeless characters sweep with the raise yesterday? Do you think that's fair?
Definitely. I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously, they also have a closed beta coming up, but that's something that has been known before. So I see why someone would act on the raise yesterday and like the partners, like the investors, and pick that as a thesis to buy a bunch of assets or NFTs.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And just so people know, like, we're obviously conscious that sometimes we are reporting on things that we own, but it turns out we're actually just quite good at picking stuff at the moment. Like, timeless is literally the number one day change in 24-hour price action. So it's not that we're just pumping legendaries bags. It's literally that it's the top performer in the last 24 hours. So that's just for some clarity of where those collections are. Timeless is up 60%. And Treeverse is up 32% in the last 24 hours. And that's also like the 7th or 8th biggest mover in the last 24 hours. Did you not want to force me to buy those when you told me about them, Legendary? Or like, why did I not do that? Do you remember?
I don't know, but it reminds me of our biggest fumble we did over the last couple of months, which was talking times and times and times again on the show about complete the sentence about what?
I don't know. Actually, there might be more than one.
I was specifically thinking about Mochaverse.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
we would talk about it on the show. We would talk about it in private. And then it just went from like 0.5 to 2.5.
I think because I talked so much about it, some part of my brain just assumed that I would have already bought in, because I talked like a holder, right? I talked as if it were my bags in private to you and like how it's going to go up. But I just didn't clock at some conscious level that I didn't do the buying part. I just did the being, happy and excited about my bags part without the buying part, which was a big fumble.
Do you know what? I think there might be some psychology to that. There might be some psychology to when you're so, like, you've so well researched something and you feel like you're yeah, I don't know. Maybe there is some psychology to that when you feel like you're allocated to it, even though you're not, because you have intellectually invested in it, and then it feels like you've done the job. It's like, right, cool, I know this is going to go up. Maybe the W is just seeing it go up after it goes up, knowing that you're right, but actually you haven't actually done anything on the back of it. Jack, your hand is raised. What do you think about that kind of psychological perspective that someone might have? Is that a thing?
I think you're dead right. Yeah, I think I've been pummeled by this bull market, even though it's only been like a week, more than the bear market over like at least the last 6 months. There's so many L's on just watching things I knew were going to go up, and then realizing I hadn't bought in when I thought I bought in. So this bull market psychology shit is it's pretty deep. I think like the biggest sense I got was we were in Amsterdam, just over a month ago now, during Breakpoint, and my sort of assessment was, let's find the projects that people really, really want to get to during Breakpoint. Let's find the events that they're running. And my idea is that, well, they've got to have been doing quite well, and probably that will lead into a bull cycle pretty well. So it turns out it was MADLADS and Claynosaurs. Did I buy either? No, I did not. Cost me, like a swift 15K on the timeline today. So what my idea now is to do this in Miami, figure out what everyone wants to get to, what projects those are, and feedback on this show, so everyone else can buy if they want to make that assessment. Completely up to you, NFA. And then you can hear me complain, probably a deja vu Groundhog Day experience of exactly the same thing once I get back from Miami, when again I didn't buy any of these projects, and I'm probably out another 15K.
Well, that sounds good. One of the issues I see with that is that we already know what the projects are, and we've told you already, and you're just saying you're not going to buy them already. So we're kind of front running that situation. I told you that you know which ones they are at dinner, and it's the ones that we hold, and you're just refusing to buy them. So I don't know what to tell you at the moment. I mean,
what's the opposite of catching a falling knife? Because I feel like this is your advice at the moment. Is this arrow is as vertical as an arrow has ever been, and you're just like, just honestly, this thing will only keep going up. Like, look at the charts, Jack. It's pure green, and I'm just sat there like, but that's normally not a great thing, even in a bull market. So we'll see.
No, it's a good question, to be fair, and my position before has just been, we're going higher. Like, that's what I thought before. That's what I think now. I could be wrong. People can dunk on me if I'm wrong. But that's just my position, which is that the top is not the top. And I've been saying that for a while. And I don't know. It's kind of playing out at the moment. We'll see how much more it has to go. I personally still think there's a bit of room. And
I think I've coined a new term. It's catching a flying knife.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah,
I'm going for that.
That's nice. That sounds pretty dangerous. In fact, that sounds more dangerous than a falling knife, if I'm being honest. So, maybe do be careful as you try to catch the flying knife. But let's get into the headlines then today, Legendary. What's the first one you want to go to?
Let's go with the title of the show. Let's talk a bit about Matt. Let's talk a bit about the partnership with Wormhole and what's going on in that. Do you want to set up the MADLADS part and I get a bit into what Wormhole is and what they are doing?
Yes, because I think there's two parts to this story which will be interesting to people. One is the price, and two is Wormhole and the potential opportunity there. So let's do that in just a second. In terms of the price, all there is to say is that it keeps going up. We are now at a 220 floor, I believe. Just double checking that now. Yep, 220. That is up almost 30% in the last 24 hours. There were some pretty large sweeps yesterday. So yeah, I mean, MADLADS just continuing to be the premier collection. In my estimation, the reason why that is, as we've kind of discussed, is, I mean, they kind of got a strong community. They've got all the usual tick box things, right? They've got a strong community, good leader, but they've just got this product. And this is what I think, I'm not sure everyone knows this. Yes, they're building the exchange, but they've also got the backpack wallet. So they're just building something that's much bigger than the NFT itself. And in some level, I'm just going to make this comparison out loud. This is my out loud thinking, Legendary, so you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong. And it might be a little bit of an obscure comparison to make kind of immediately kind of makes me think a little bit about Blur, where you have a team that are doing something, but they're also doing something else. And the other things that they're doing are as important, if not bigger, than the thing that you might be interested in them for. So I don't know if that's an appropriate comparison, but it's something like that to me, where like, look, they built this community and launched this thing, but actually there's a wallet behind it all. They're doing some interesting things in the wallet as well. So I'm staking my MADLAD, and you kind of receive, I don't know how they do it. I've been getting these, like, by holding, you get, I don't know what kind of drop it is. I don't think it's a separate NFT that you receive, but you're like, I don't know, they're innovating within the wallet to make it such that you can receive things, whether they're NFTs or not, like within your wallet while you're staking. And maybe that's not super innovative, but it's all done like within the wallet, which is kind of cool. And then they've also got this exchange getting built out. And I think someone told me yesterday they relocated from somewhere in the States or Canada, was it, to go to Dubai to get that sorted out. And so they're just building something much, much bigger than you know, and a traditional NFT community that's just going to talk about what NFTs they're going to trade. So I think that's probably the thesis behind why it's going so well. I think Armani is actually ex FTX. I didn't know that. I found that out yesterday. So I think there's a lot of confidence in him as a founder. If people didn't know, that's essentially the thesis behind it. But Legendary, I don't know what your thoughts are on that. And maybe my comparison with Blur, like, is that completely off? That's just me thinking out loud as we speak. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? And then let's get into the wormhole thing.
No, I think it's a very good analogy. I mean, look, typically you have a very like straightforward approach with projects, with what they're trying to build and what they're trying to achieve, right? Look at something like, I love how you're moving around your lantern. Look at something like a game where you have the gaming PFPs that are the characters that are meant to be played as the heroes within the game. It's like all very straightforward. And of course, yes, gaming is a trend, but I find the MADLADS to be so super interesting because of that kind of that non-linear aspect, that yes, you have a PFP project and yes, they're building stuff, but it's actually infrastructure that is being built in the background. It's a tech stack that is being built, developed, and shared. And that is something that not a lot of projects can obviously pull off because they don't have the talent to do that. And this is what makes it so super interesting to me. Because community is great, and I'm absolutely not debating that, but it's not the only project that has a great community. For me, what is the USP that makes it stand out is exactly that, what you have described with your analogy to Blur, that they're actually building something that puts them in a completely unique position.
One more comparison I want to make, which is part of the thesis for MADLADS, I think, before we get onto the wormhole thing, which is an interesting opportunity, which you're going to speak to. The other comparison to make is that there was a point in time in 2021 where if you were a CryptoPunk holder, and then it became a Bored Ape holder, and then also at different times, if you were an Art Blocks holder, you would just get good stuff delivered to you. Like, if you were one of those holders, people knew to target you in the most friendly way possible with either airdrops or allocations or NFTs or whitelists or something like that, because they knew that you were valuable. You were a valued and a valuable customer, because you were able to hold a very inexpensive digital asset, and therefore you must be reasonably wealthy, and therefore you would be someone that they wanted in their community too. And I think that can be extended now to MADLADS, where they have already had the Pith airdrop. I believe there's something to do with the Jupiter airdrop for them as well, though I'd need to double check. And I don't think it would be unreasonable to think that something along those lines could happen again, because it seemed to have just made sense for people back then to target the Premier collection or the Premier collections on a particular blockchain. And because of Solana's just outrageous outperformance in the market in the last, I don't know how long, few months, it means that all of these premier Solana applications, DeFi applications, other applications are coming to market now. And what better way to market that thing than via that rabid NFT community who are rich, or at least on their way to being rich in some way. So I think that's the only additional point I'd make on MADLADS to kind of complete the thesis on it. Any thoughts on that, Legendary, before you get into the wormhole opportunity? Well, a bit of a download on what it is, because it is an interesting thing, and then the opportunity associated with it.
I never thought about it like that. I do think it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense, especially if you then also go a bit further in the argument and say, if you're part of that community, which is blessed with those very tech-savvy founders and team, and they're building those products, you would be right to probably assume that that team encourages the users to explore that products, to explore wormhole bridges and other technologies. So you have then a community that is incentivized to do that is encouraged to do that, and that you then also might want to reward on top of that, or that will be just rewarded by the fact that they're exploring those platforms, which at one point might have an airdrop. I do like the way how you approach this.
Yeah, I think it's a reasonable way to think about it. Just before we get into the kind of technicalities of wormhole and the opportunity there, I would love to hear from Whale, who's just joined us on stage, to think about just what his thoughts are on MADLADS and whether you've actually crossed over to Solana at all. Whale, welcome to the stage with us.
Thank you. I gotta admit, I'm terribly undereducated when it comes to MADLADS and what they're doing. It's to a point that it's unacceptable given the success that they have on Solana. So I will have to look into it more. I remember a lot of people shilling me MADLADS a few months ago, and I didn't buy, and of course it was the smartest decision. So I will definitely have to look into it, because Bichak, I think you made a great point when it comes to MADLADS kind of becoming what Bored Apes or CryptoPunks were to Ethereum kind of back then. The communities that people want to give whitelist spots for, or the people that projects want to have in their project. So that's one of the reasons why I tune in. When I saw the headline MADLADS, I wanted to join and get a little bit more background on what's the new updates they delivered.
Amazing. So I think what we have just laid out there is basically the thesis for MADLADS in its entirety. So hopefully that is super helpful to you. A kind of separate question, well, before we kind of dig into some of the specific opportunities with Wormhole, is how have you thought about this Solana run? I know you're someone who's been on ETH a lot more in general. I also was that person, and ultimately I still am that person. I am trying to get across more and do more things on Solana. But how have you thought about this move and this attention on Solana? Have you actually gone over, started exploring, experimenting on Solana, or are you still in that education phase?
When it comes to kind of the NFT ecosystem on Solana, I'm still in the exploration kind of. That's why I want to learn more about the project. I know what MADLADS are, what's their mission. I talked to the Kleno team a few times. I think what they're doing is great as well. But when it comes to Solana, I was kind of stuck in buying the Solana as a coin and not necessarily getting into their NFT ecosystem. Will probably change now. I think Solana NFTs have in general a lot of traction now. Of course, MADLADS being kind of the one that leads the whole run. But I think there are more. I mentioned more Kleno. There are a few others where I think they're great builders on Solana too. So yeah, been looking into it, but not a big collector yet.
Okay, interesting. Makes a lot of sense. Obviously worth doing that educational stuff first, I think, before you do dive in. So I think that makes complete sense. Just so you know, and for the other people who are listening in know as well, Tensor on Solana is, the best way to describe it is the Blur equivalent. It's the main marketplace. If you are unfamiliar with Solana stuff and you want to just go to see what the main collections are, what the volume is, and in addition, what they're doing at the moment is they are doing essentially an airdrop farming program where they're going to be doing an airdrop as well, and all of the volume that you do will go towards that program. So that's to be aware if you want to get involved in that and you're bullish on Solana, bullish on the NFT ecosystem on Solana. That's the Blur equivalent. So that's where you want to go to check it out and try to get some exposure should you wish. Legendary, Whale was also talking about like some of the deeper opportunities that MADLADS might kind of be associated with. Why don't you speak to Wormhole then, because I'm almost certain people won't know what it is and what the opportunity might be there.
Yeah, absolutely. Remember using Wormhole the first time in the last cycle. It is.
I remember you sharing it with me like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I know. We used it all when we did the airdrop tutorials back then as well, because we wanted to start to explore Solana in the last cycle, and obviously all of us ETH native people needed a way to move our funds over to Wormhole, and Wormhole back then was the best cross L1 bridge that allowed you to obviously bridge funds from ETH to Solana and the other way around, which is more complex than bridging tokens from a layer 1 to a layer 2 solution that ultimately is both an EVM compatible chain. So that's more challenging. You need 2 sets of wallets. There's more things that can go wrong. I remember in the early stages that my funds got stuck. The team had to help me to reclaim them. So it is a very, very complex piece of tech to build if you want to bridge across multiple layer 1 solutions. And in the meantime, obviously, Portal does way more than that. They didn't limit themselves to only bridge between ETH and Solana, but they extended to also include more layer 1 solutions, to include they included Terra back then, they included Sui, Say, they include many of the layer 2 solutions on ETH like Arbitrum, Base, BNB, but also other protocols like Algorand. So it is a cross layer 1 bridge. It is a true bridge. For example, Orbiter, Finance, one of the bridges we love to use on ETH for the layer 2 solutions, isn't quote unquote a real bridge like the official ZK Sync bridge, because you just send tokens and get it from the wallet sent to you. This is why it's so fast and cheap. But that's something that's a very relevant distinction to make, because if you look at airdrops and you look at being rewarded for bridging funds, this is the reason why sometimes only official bridges or bridges using official protocols count, because not every bridge is technically speaking bridging your funds in the background. Yes, it might give you the money, but it's not technically a bridge. So this is why I might sound very anal about that, but it's an important technical distinction to understand. And this is also to highlight that actually what Portal is doing is pretty complex and it's pretty cool. And going back to the MADLADS and going back to the partnership that has been announced, there was a trailer, a 25-second trailer, essentially saying, fuck it, get your backpacks ready, and just announcing this partnership between MADLADS and Backpack, the wallet, the Solana wallet, which is being built by the MADLADS team.
Absolutely. Definitely want to hear from, I'm going to come back to you in a second. Dadeep is with us. I want to hear from you in just a second, Dadeep. Going to come straight to you on this MADLADS Wormhole partnership. But just a question on that, Legendary, first. So Wormhole raised a significant amount recently. We reported on that. I think it was at the end of last week. Is the thought process here, and this is, I guess, a two-part question, is the thought process there's going to be some type of airdrop for Wormhole using the protocol just independently? And then the second question is the thought process that MADLADS could be involved in that? What's your instinctive thought there? You may not know the answer perfectly, but what's your instinctive thought?
Could be. I mean, obviously, the timing of those things is always pretty interesting, and you can assume that if partnerships of this size are being formed, the teams are talking. There's more of the roadmap, more of the plans being shared in the background in confidentiality. So it could be an interesting point to observe the timing of those announcements, but pure speculation.
Absolutely. Okay. Very interesting stuff. Welcome to Deep. I believe this might be the first time he is speaking with us. Definitely got to know Deep from his appearances on the Nifty Morning Show quite some time ago. Really great to have you with us, my friend. How are you doing? And what are your thoughts on this MADLADS partnership?
Hey, B-Check, legendary, everyone. How's it going, man? Super stoked to be here. I was just listening in. I always tune in whenever I can. Recently, like my exposure to spaces had reduced drastically, so I couldn't really support as much as I can. But I know you guys are absolutely killing it with all the information and all the alpha that's being dropped on this space. So super big fan of both of you guys, not just like of the space, but what you guys do on the feed as well. I think, more and more people should be exposed to people like yourself who are not just, like fluffing around, if I may put it that way. But enough of giving flowers. Coming back to MADLADS, I think um, I always said this, and I'll say it again. It's like your biggest leverage bet on Solana, right? Like if you really want Solana to sort of even come close to ETH in terms of what it was like in 21, I think you need to pick one big winner, right? Like in terms of token, Bonk is obviously one of them. But if you go beyond that and talk about NFT projects and like just an entity in general, then I think MADLADS is your best bet, right? Because they've also got an exchange coming up. And the way I see it, all the holders are obviously going to get whatever like there's going to be launches that will happen on the exchange itself, right? A lot of tokens get launched on these exchanges. So in the future, whatever token gets launched, like right, whether that's native on Solana or any other tokens or protocols in general, the holders will get exposure to it. There's going to be an allocation always reserved for the holders, right? So I think Pit and Wormhole is just the beginning. So and the way I look at it is that Wormhole will be integrated within the wallet itself because Backpack supports ETH and Solana. So Jupiter already has a bridge, a wormhole bridge on their protocol. So I think what Backpack might do is have a native bridge which is integrated through wormhole, and users will be able to basically bridge their tokens from ETH to Sol and vice versa. So this is something that I think could happen very soon. And all the people, so if this is integrated before the wormhole airdrop, what can happen is basically it can act as a multiplier. If you use the bridge and basically swap tokens from one sort of chain to other through the wallet itself, you might get more and more points and basically more and more token allocations.
Ooh.
So yeah, right. So Jupiter did it. Like one of the multipliers was basically, did you use the perps exchange? And they launched it like just a few days before they announced the criteria for the airdrop. So I think uh, this could be one of the possibilities. I'm not quite sure. I'm just shooting it in the dark, but it's definitely a possibility. Yeah, I'm a big. Yeah, sorry. Go on.
No, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it. A, for the nice stuff you said at the beginning, but B, the super detailed thought process there. Clearly a very experienced and sophisticated user of Solana. I think Deep is, because he's been considering that stuff for quite some time. I like everything that you said, and and as you said, like none of that stuff is confirmed. It's just kind of extrapolating out your thought process, trying to figure out where things could go. But I like that idea. Like it's a nice idea in principle. I believe that portal bridge is already open where you can bridge stuff over from ETH to Solana without any slippage. That's at least how it's been advertised at the moment. But I guess what you're suggesting, Deep, is to make that something which is internal to the Backpack wallet, so that people don't have to go to the website, so that people can just use it, open up the wallet, get your funds, send it to wherever you need to immediately, which is definitely not possible as things stand. Is that basically what your assessment was?
Yeah, absolutely. And we need to understand that all the big exchanges, they need to support multiple chains, right? And I'm pretty sure behind the scenes they have a partnership to be like the main sort of enabler of cross, like swapping cross chains and everything. Because like if you look at just like a stable coin like USDT, like there's like so many chains it is on, right? So integrating someone like wormhole is a bare minimum, a requisite for you to have a big exchange, right? So yeah.
Absolutely. And just a final point, I want to hear from Legendary second to get his reflections on that. A final point from me is that it's kind of an airdrop person's dream when you can just bridge some stuff. There's no slippage. You just need to generate volume in order to qualify for an airdrop. Like, one of the challenging things sometimes is when you've got to transact, you've got to keep switching from ETH to USDC to some other tokens, and then you keep having all of these transactions, and then your accountant says like, why are there so many transactions on this thing? It's like, oh, they're not real transactions. It's just like, we're just doing some airdrop farming. But when you're just bridging, that's so much easier. You don't incur any cost, right? You might have a small fee for bridging, but you're not having to keep thinking, well, okay, well, I changed ETH from this price to USDC, and then I changed it from USDC at this price, and like, oh no, every time I farm this airdrop, I'm losing money all the way down the line. You just don't need to do that when you bridge, because you're bridging one native asset to another. Although I appreciate in this scenario, you might be doing ETH to Solana, but I suspect some of the wallets now are multi-chain as well, like Phantom, for example. So you can hold ETH in your Phantom wallet and your Solana wallet. So maybe there'll be something there to consider. Legendary, final reflections on this before we move on to one of the other pieces of news.
Yeah, just adding to what you said, with Wormhole Connect, you can bridge ETH, wrapped BTC from ETH to Solana with zero slippage. Those are the tokens that they recently said they will have no slippage. And it is, as you say, it is an important thing, because if you want to make volume, and if you look at historical airdrops and you see that people have been rewarded for 10K of volume, 100K of volume, a million of volume, like even if you have a million in your wallet you're willing to send around, you will incur massive slippage otherwise. If you don't have a million, you do like hundreds of transactions to get to 100K volume with a couple $100 or $1,000, and you pay slippage and fees all the time, that quickly adds up. And also wanted to add to the point that the Deep made, that this line of thought and their explanation made a lot of sense, and it's something I definitely will look more into.
Very good. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get into, I see Ben's hand raised, I see Jack's hand raised. So I want to get to both of those opinions in a second. I'm just going to take a pause there to get to the Web3 roundup and the Creator Corner news to bring everyone up to speed with what else has been going on in the space in the previous 24 hours. As always, it comes from the snapshot, which is pinned up top, goes out daily, Monday to Friday, to get you up to speed with what's going on. And then we're going to get back to this, because I don't think we necessarily need to talk about crypto just going up, because it is just going up. Although I think maybe we need to do a couple of minutes on it, because just to get a feel of where we sit with it. But let's get into the roundup first. Number one, USDC provider Circle announces partnership with Nubank, which is, I think, the biggest digital bank in Brazil. So that's a good partnership there. We saw them announce last week a partnership with the Japanese bank. So that's pretty cool. Next, Pixel Vault's Battle Plan game accounts for 10% of all transactions on Arbitrum Nova. I thought that was really noteworthy. Arbitrum Nova is obviously the gaming chain for Arbitrum. 10% is a lot of the total transactions. So good work by Pixel Vault there. Proof kicks off soft launch of Talon's marketplace with a 48-hour auction for 20 Grails mint passes. Remember, Talon's is their kind of non-tradable currency which they can spend on various things. So interested to see how valuable those are considered to be. Next, Wormhole Connect is now live on the Jupiter Bridge page. So that's how you can, this is the point, seamlessly bridge ETH, WETH, or WBTC from Ethereum to Solana with zero slippage and participate in one of the fastest growing DeFi ecosystems. So definitely want to check that out and see whether that rings true. Moving into the creator corner, the Inspect token, the Pulse of Web3 token goes live today. Legendary and I were investors in that. That seems to be doing quite nicely. The GTA 6 trailer just broke Mr. Beast's record for most views on YouTube in 24 hours. That's pretty crazy. From a creator perspective, we always want to keep on top of what is moving the needle. And I think the GTA 6, people just absolutely love it. And finally, Alibaba releases an AI tool to animate any creator. This was shared by Nick from the morning show, where he said AI just killed the creator business. Alibaba revealed Animate Anyone, which takes a photo and produces realistic motion. Good luck competing against automated actors. Very interested in seeing that. One of my theses for a while ago was I need to create enough content on Twitter and also go on YouTube so that I can train the models, so that whenever the AI is ready, I don't have to run the show anymore. It will just be an AI version of me, knowing everything based on my previous work. Legendary, that is the roundup. Do you want to touch on any of those reflections before we head to Ben and Jack?
Definitely love the AI thought, but I don't want to get into my typical state of fantasizing about the future of AI. So let's stay with the conversation and hear from both Ben and Jack.
Let's do it. Ben, welcome to the stage. I know you come from a slightly more technical background as a software engineer, so I would love to hear your thoughts on the MADLADS Wormhole partnership and any of the reflections we've already had. Maybe correct us if we're wrong on anything as it goes to that partnership.
Yeah, I thought it was super interesting, and most things on the NFT space are definitely interesting because they have a stronger social component. And what I recon there is that there will be a need for them to compete head to head with existing exchanges, right? And it's not like these exchanges cannot just deploy the same features they will deploy unless they come up with something truly innovative, right? So DEXs essentially have been competing through farms emissions through their pools, which are aka your trading pairs with their APRs and fees and stuff and how they relate to the native token of the platform. Plus, you have the swap and the perps fees. And you could even say that some exchanges do not have perps. So for me, what's interesting is that I believe that these will very likely be a tough uphill battle, considering Jupiter, Array, you have Orca, you have a lot going on there, right? So it's not a blue ocean, DEX wise. Will they be able to leverage their community and business development mostly? That's why I kind of love what Deep was saying, the business development side of it, to make sure that they have access to exclusive opportunities and that drives some sort of adoption and allows them to compete. That would be amazing, right? Leveraging the social side. That's why I started this off with NFTs are interesting. But hey, DeFi and crypto at times don't follow and don't follow the social side. They just follow the opportunities. So they kind of need to align these two things and make it happen. But nonetheless, super interesting the fact that they're going for that.
Man, I love the way you laid that out, because that's actually exactly one of the ways that I've thought about this before, where, yeah, the NFTs completely captures the social side, as you say, the DeFi, the financial aspect of things. Or despite the fact that NFTs have become financialized, it doesn't mean that those same people are interested in the deep depths of DeFi, right? And so I've thought about that before. And I had mainly concluded that it's a cool way to jumpstart whatever project you want to do, whether it's whether it is DeFi, whether it's something else, like it's just a cool distribution and marketing campaign to have NFTs as part of your rollout strategy, basically. So
yeah, and imagine, like, I'm not saying you guys would ever do that. There would be nothing wrong if you did, just so people don't speculate. Oh, Benny's saying these guys are working on this project. No, that's not what I'm saying. But imagine, like, B-Check, Legendary, Whale, The Deep, and Jack, a bunch of people we know that are key opinion leaders in our space decided to set up their own decks. At first, you could say, oh, how can these guys compete with Uniswap and whatever? But then if every meme coin that matters comes out of their exchange and stuff like that, which exchange are you going for? Of course, you're going to go for these guys' exchanges. That's kind of my thought process. You know what I mean?
Oh,
But I'm just speculating, highly speculating right now. But thanks for the time. Much love. Amazing show as always. And yeah.
appreciate it, man. We're just going to write that down as a potential idea for 2024.
I mean, I'm saying Whale Swap is a cool name
for you. Let me know.
Whale Swap. What do you think about that? Whale Swap as a name. That sounds pretty. That's going to get the people going. No. No comment from Whale. No comment for Whale on Whale Swap. Jack, we were going to go to you next. What are your thoughts?
I'm not sure how to follow that, but that was incredible. I think, look, on the token side and like this idea that projects leverage community and that whole sort of ecosystem, I think we've seen this happen time and time again. Like, really, like, it all started with Wall Street Bets to like really point out how heavy a community and a single like content creator, the impact that they can have. They basically beat Wall Street with GameStop. Like, that was a Reddit community that just got so big, and then it sort of spread to YouTube. The idea that NFT projects can do that too and leverage that, we've seen that with Bored Apes, we've seen it with Punks, as you were sort of talking to before. I just want to give a really like recent sort of explanation or like demonstration of that, which was in DGods and Utes. When they were the biggest project on Solana, which we're talking, months ago, not years ago, Bonk was dropped to holders. Like this token, which now is basically the Doge of Solana, or at least that's what it's being pitched as. That the value of that drop was today around $14,000, and I know this because I completely just missed that opportunity and I sold my bags at like the absolute bottom. So you can trust me on these figures. But that is, that is the strength of this, and the idea that MADLADS can now leverage this. It's a proven concept. We're not just completely speculating here. This has happened to the point right now where the biggest drop previously to DGods holders was 6 months ago is 14K. That would pay for a MADLADS right now. So yeah, the opportunity here is huge.
Yeah, great context. I obviously gave the ETH examples, but you're right to suggest that this has already actually happened on Solana in some shape or form, and therefore there is certainly precedent, historical precedent for us to consider and extrapolate out that that type of thing is not unreasonable to think. It's not unreasonable to factor that in to your thesis and trying to understand what the potential upside is for that premiere collection. Dedeep, we are running towards the close of the show, so definitely want to come to you here, but it's just going to have to be a little bit of a quicker one for your final conclusive thoughts.
Yeah, I'll keep it quick. So one last thing, I mean, the team moved to Asia, so it makes sense that they also want to target the big whales from Asia and basically create a safe haven, considering how infamous the FTX debacle and Binance has been sort of under the radar for quite some time for some mysterious things. I think it makes sense for them to create a very trustable exchange. And if they target the right people, I think they have the community. And if they can get the whales on board, it's like a perfect mix. And yeah,
I like it. That's actually another good bit of context, because one of the things I've speaking to some people the last couple of days, and like, despite the fact we are in this global market where anyone in principle can trade with anyone and you can join any community based in any place, there is clearly a localized element to this stuff. And I think it would be naive to think that geography does not matter, because it does seem to correlate that people on the west coast of the States, for example, might gravitate around particular things. The east coast of the States gravitate around particular things. Europe might do certain things. Asia has a very different vibe and feel to the market. And I know, Asia is an incredibly diverse place. I'm just grouping it into broad sections for ease of conversation. But I do think that geography is relevant, and their exchange is based out of Dubai, for example. That's another relevant point. So I'm very happy to consider the geography as part of the mix when assessing this type of stuff. But we are drawing to the close of the show. Legendary, any final reflections? Maybe touch on price action, just the Bitcoin, like basically hitting year highs on everything. A quick thought on, are we overheating? Are we not underheating? Are we cooling off? Like, are alts going? Bitcoin dominance is high. Final reflection on that.
I mean, we're definitely moving into a very, very greedy direction. But I still think that we didn't see the ETF approval yet, which kind of seems to be the leading narrative that everyone's waiting for. So we will see more action until this eventually happens. It will be interesting to see how that plays out. What I also found is, and you had it in the news yesterday, is that once we get into the greedy sentiment, the rumors start to escalate in such a ridiculous dimension. You had that one rumor yesterday in the news that with that, I don't remember this guy's name, but anyhow, he is the advisor to the president in El Salvador, obviously very close to Bitcoin and the crypto markets. And he was saying that Qatar might buy 500 billion worth of Bitcoin, and saying this is the opportunity to see the 100K God candle on BTC. So it is interesting to see that when we start to overheat, this is one of the signs that I like to watch in the market, is that the rumors reach some kind of very ridiculous dimension. But with that being said, I also think it's a pretty unique opportunity, because on the one hand, and I'm gonna keep this rather short. On the one hand, we have that lead up to the ETF, which is basically a one-off thing that only can happen once that the ETF gets approved for the first time, that we cross into traditional finance. On the other hand, we still have regulatory pressure coming, and we have many more regulations, MiCA in the EU and others coming. So it makes me bullish for like short to midterm, but it also kind of makes me realize that crypto is maturing. Like, it's not in its infancy any longer. Once we will see solid regulatory frameworks and ETFs approved, and TradFi entering the market in an even stronger fashion, then crypto is definitely out of its infancy if you compare it to the global financial world.
Yeah, really interesting takes. I think all of that is thoughtful to add to your mix of analysis as you try to assess where we are. A final reflection from me is that I saw someone say that BlackRock aren't looking to launch these ETFs into some dead market, are they? Like, I think it's in one of the nicer things about this situation is that suddenly it's becoming the case where a lot of important people's incentives are starting to become aligned. And what's the best marketing tool for an ETF than a Bitcoin all-time high? That's one of the thoughts that I saw circulating, and I liked it. Not saying it's going to happen necessarily, but I think I liked it in that, to me, when I assess these things, it's about incentives. And if enough incentives are aligned, particularly amongst important people, then I think those things end up happening. So that's my final thought. Ben, I appreciate your hands raised. We have to cut the show at this stage now because we've already run over time. Really loved your contributions on the show today, as well as the contributions from Deep, Jack, and Whale. Absolute banger show, banger guests. So happy to have you. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Legendary, thank you for co-hosting. As always, have a wonderful day, everyone. Take care, and we will see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.